Hello, my name is Rainald Schumacher, and I'm a curator from Berlin. Together with my colleague we had the opportunity to curate this exhibition, The Woman and the Earth, Geta Brătescu, here at Francisco Carolinum in Linz. And the exhibition is dedicated to, I think, one of the most important female artists from Eastern Europe, from Romania. She was born in 1926, and she has developed over a very long life really an extraordinary series of works. What is important is maybe to consider also the situation of Romania. When she was born, Romania was still a kingdom, then it was a republic, then it became a socialist communist state. And in 1989 there was a revolution against the Stalinist Ceaușescu dictatorship. And so Geta Brătescu has experienced all these kind of changes in society, and she has also experienced a transition period after the revolution, the kind of turbo capitalism in the early 90s, and only very lately, I think like 10 years ago, she was getting also the international attention that she really deserved. In 2017, she was representing Romania at the Venice Biennale. What we try to do here in the exhibition is to give a kind of overview of quite many of her works from the very different periods. The material paper and just the sheet of paper was really important in many of her works. I think also from the 70s, 80s on, she used paper as a material, and in 2010, 2014, she was also working with simple collages, with simple cut-out shapes and forms, which she arranged on the small sheets of paper in very different ways. She called it like a game of form, a game of these kind of forms that were created more or less, let's say, like an imaginary space. So the small limitation of the paper was really like blown up into some cosmos of very free use of the forms, of the shapes, of the colors. And I think it's also important that the space that has somehow also limitation of any ideological framework and has no kind of regulation what the art should serve for. There is no kind of political goal, there is no kind of social goal, there is no kind of propaganda in these kind of works. And it also shows that it's so important for art that art is a space of freedom, of complete freedom. And it's also quite nice that an old lady with something like 90 has this kind of energy, this kind of interest, and has also found something she can do in this kind of old age. And if you really look at one of these pieces and you follow up, I think for many people it starts to be not only a flat thing, but suddenly you see, oh, this line is in front, and this form is in the back, and these seem to be floating, and this is moving up. So suddenly this very limited space becomes a whole space of complete imagination. Good example for the work with the paper is also this wonderful piece, Untitled, from 1987. It's actually a simple packaging paper, more or less like thrown away material, as it was used by the almighty artist union. We can maybe talk a little bit later about this, the role of the artist union in Romania. But this paper she arranged in a very nice way in the back with some threads and some needle something that looks like a golden shining flame. Yeah, Geta Brătescu was born in 1926, and she was coming from, let's say, like a bourgeois family of pharmacists, and that's why during the communist time also she couldn't finish her studies. So she was denied to finish the studies in literature and art, and only in 1961 she was allowed to finish it, and she became a member of the Artist Union. You had to be a member of the Artist Union in a communist state to be allowed to get materials, to get official orders, to be also part of the official kind of exhibitions in the galleries of the Artist Union. I think somehow to survive in this kind of regime, she was working for a magazine as illustrator and graphic designer, and she was also working very shortly for an animation studio for films, and she did also like an animated movie, Aesop's Walk. Aesop is this antique kind of storytelling poet or something, and these are the earliest works in the exhibition, actually from 1967, also like related to Aesop. Maybe they have been part of the series of this kind of drawing of animation, but also Aesop, Mutter Courage, Mother Courage, from Bertolt Brecht, Medea, Goethe, Faust. All these kind of themes were quite important for her. She did a lot of works about these kind of classical themes. It was also an opportunity to avoid the censorship of the Securitate, and it was also like a field where the artist could somehow have a little bit space of freedom and hiding behind these classical themes. She always was very open for experiments and for trying to find a different approach also to the way how she was working. She did quite many drawings and sketches with, let's say, like with the eyes closed, to find a way that not the eye is controlling the drawing process, but it's more or less like, let's say, some imagination or some kind of inner spirituality. And during this process of drawing with the eyes closed, there was always coming a motif, a bird, a kind of shape of female or male figure, and the bird also like. And it's this is somehow like it was so becoming so important for us that also this late self-portrait, woman and the bird. It's also like the title of the exhibition is something that is also like very interesting aspect, because the bird seems to look in some other drawings. If you look here at these series, there's also a woman and bird from 2007. They are also drawn with the eyes closed, and you have this bird maybe also like in a kind of maybe very aggressive, maybe even funny way of figure that is coming out, and you have also here men and bird also done this drawing with the eyes closed, partially drawn with the eyes closed. Later on she was adding maybe the color or some other shapes. You have also this kind of interesting big theme of bird and human being in some way. Very mysterious. Only in the early 70s, Geta Brătescu was given a studio by the Artist Union. I think it was in 1971 too, And the studio became really the important place for many of her creative works. It was also like a place that was somehow not controlled by the security, not controlled by the censorship, where she could really develop a very free, also artistically experimental kind of situation. And one important performative action from 1975 is this kind of action towards white, which was photographed by her husband, which was very supportive to her. And what she's actually doing is that she is covering in the beginning parts of the wall, of the background, with white paper. Then she continues to go over the chairs, over the table, and also over the ceiling. And in the end, she is also like covering herself, her own body, and then also she starts to paint her face white, and the whole space like moves into this kind of complete white situation. It's interesting that the way how she was painting her face and covering her head with some kind of mask, she repeated this image years later in 1992 in a performance called Earthquake. Earthquake, that was the time, 1992, shortly after the revolution. There were a lot of festivals in Timișoara, where actually the revolution had started against Ceaușescu, and for 3 or 4 days artists were coming together, were doing experiments, were exchanging experience. And for Earthcake, she really collected earth, she cleaned it up in some way, then she added water, and then she was really forming a kind of dough, and in the end she ate this, really the earth cake, and she was wearing again, like nearly 15 years later, the mask she had before already developed in 1975 in this studio performance. Geta Brătescu, the Woman and the Bird, is the first exhibition in this scale in an Austrian museum of this amazing artist. She died in 2018 with the age of 91. And there are also some works that are coming here from the estate, which are shown for the first time in general to the public. We had the opportunity to work together with Marian Ivan from the estate in Bucharest, and we are also very grateful and thankful to Hauser and Wirth, who also are responsible now for the estate of Geta Brătescu. It's maybe only since 10 years ago when the international attention was getting really focused on artists from Eastern Europe who were already working in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And it's also like part of the whole kind of new tendency in art history to rewrite the history of the European art development during the last century. And we are realizing that we were blind, or we didn't have a chance to see what is happening in Eastern Europe during the time of the Cold War. Maybe because we were ideologically blind, maybe because there was really no kind of connection and possible to look at it. But also this exhibition, I think it's part of the whole kind of important step to see rewriting the history of Europe as a whole will also develop a better understanding in between the countries, in between the different nations, and maybe also open up our mind in general for a wider perspective on Europe. What I also like maybe finally just also we have to stress that she is also an excellent role model for younger artists, especially also in Europe, and especially also many female artists, to see somehow that you can go your own way, and you can go your own way also under very difficult conditions, and you can, if you are somehow authentic and believe in yourself, then you can really create something. So it's an excellent example for this. Sometimes maybe also like very hard and difficult life, but it's also worth in some way. Something stays and something keeps the things up alive, and I think this exhibition